theory by replacing the notion of capital as single magnitude with a visible vector of capital goods, Higgs had managed, with the disappearance of the normal position, its transformation into a stationary state, clearly a very unrealistic way on which to concentrate and explain the phenomena, to make it less visible the relation between theory and observation in traditional theory, and in some way to validate the dynamics he was proposing in value and capital in a rather paradoxical way, because these dynamics, with reference to theoretical positions which are essentially by their own nature impermanent, was in fact endangering seriously the possibility, the correspondence between theory and observation. And this is a problem which we have at present with neoclassical theory. Now, the disappearance, now we can see how the disappearance of the normal position from Higgs's argument, which was very influential on the second phase of the capital controversy, has weighed very heavily on the controversy on capital. The eclipse of the normal position had a series of effects on the controversy, which I submit converged in obscuring beyond recognition the basic terms of the question of capital in neoclassical theory. We may perhaps try to summarize these effects under four main points. That disappearance meant, first of all, the disappearance of the most transparent form of dependence on neoclassical theory of capital as a single magnitude, namely its ultimate use as a datum for determining the position. On the other hand, that made the previous neoclassical use of the notion a confused bone of contention rather than the plain historical text it was. Further, it made the conception of a quantity of capital at the very origin of neoclassical theory, as we attempted to show, that much more difficult to discern and understand. As a result, and most importantly, it made it difficult to understand the continued dependence of that conception in the reformulation of neoclassical theory, which were being advanced, a continuing dependence of which I shall say a word later in a moment. Secondly, we are considering the consequences, the disappearance of the normal position in obscuring the problem of capital in neoclassical theory. Secondly, the disappearance of the normal position went together with that of its key condition, the traditional competitive rate of profit, i.e. the uniformity of the returns of the capital supply prices. Thus, when that condition was referred to from the critical side in the controversy, in order to explain the rationale of the normal position and its neoclassical dependence on the capital endowment as a single fluid bond, that rationale was generally not understood at all, and the condition was even confused with the altogether different condition of a uniformity in the commodity own rates of interest, a mere synonym of assuming constancy of prices independently of equilibrium. Thirdly, and most importantly, from a practical point of view, the misunderstanding of the normal position as a stationary or steady state led many of the participants in the controversy to take for granted the Higgsian charge that previous theory was inapplicable to the real world. We have already mentioned the striking paradoxality of the charge but we may now stress how, by pushing into oblivion the alternative method based on normal position, that charge helped turning a blind eye on the real undermining of the applicability of the theory, the one due to the impermanence of the new equilibrium and the resulting need of a dynamic theory. It was indeed the undermining which Higgs himself had partly foreseen but we may deal with these questions. And fourthly and lastly, the mist in which the discussion had been moving because of these unclarified misunderstandings was made even thicker by a tendency to see the neoclassical dependence on the notion of a quantity of capital as pertaining to the empirical construct of an aggregate production function, purporting, that is, to represent the output of the whole economy as a single homogeneous aggregate produced by a capital homogeneous mechanism. Taken in isolation, the target, which was the result of the critical attack on the Soviet article trying to absorb for the long period Keynes into neoclassical theory, taken in isolation, the target was, however, from the critics, misleading, as it risked turning an inconsistency at the foundations of the idea of a generalized vector substitutability into difficulties pertaining only to an admittedly unrigorous approximation, and therefore presumably absent when the several productive sectors are distinguished in a general equilibrium system. Thus, in conclusion, the later stages of the controversy, running over the last part, which you may be able to see in the paper. Thus, in conclusion, the later stages of the controversy appear to have been marked by multiple misunderstandings which are still waiting to be clear. Thanks to the unambiguous phenomena of reswitching and reverse capital deepening, the early stages were conclusive in discarding from pure theory the traditional versions of the theory. Subsequently, however, when the implication of those phenomena and the reformulations of the theory inevitably became the main object, those misunderstandings prevented decisive progress and led to what is in fact an inconclusive phase of the discussion. It is this complex of circumstances, I submit, that has left space for the credence that whatever its methodological deficiency, the equilibria which became dominant with the Higgsian divide, as I have called it, are immune from the inconsistencies of capital of previous marginal theory. The credence that is in turn, with a leap, unwarranted in fact, that in turn has left space, I believe, for a second no less unwarranted consequence. A feeling that since the Higgsian reformulation, and in particular intertemporal equilibrium, would confirm at the level of pure theory, or better, put beyond discussion, the essential validity of the general demand and supply apparatus, they would also provide some validation for the admittedly invalid previous concepts, foremost among them that of a quantity of capital, as acceptable